So we are in front of three of your paintings, Ashley. Impregnate, cybernate, and exfoliate, in order from left to right.
Yeah.
Impregnate. So you speak a lot about poetic evocation of fertilization in it. I'm really interested in the color and the vibration of this mass in the center, and how it's actually how it communicates with the different parts of the painting, from the outside to the inside. What did you want to talk about in there?
I think what's interesting to me about it is the attempt to take a sequence of actions and find an imaginative way of. So that is the whole ejaculation, impregnation, pregnancy, and birth, all happening at once. So, in a timeline, it's the timeline is not in a linear form. It's compressed on, so information is imprinted upon itself, almost as if it has a memory. So
it's a memory of the entire process from creation to. Do you involve death into this too, in this one? Or is it just about until birth happens?
I wasn't thinking so much of death in it, but I was thinking of life.
Of life.
And I suppose trying to find vibrancy in our personal organs that are normally hidden away, and it's like to make them live at an imaginative level. So instead of being a something, they actually became personified into an identity. So the personage who's represented in that form is actually made up of parts.
Okay.
So they're fallopian tubes, or there could be some other aspect of it, or the sperm cell making its way through. It's like, but it's all imaginative.
It's all imaginative.
Yeah.
So this is your imagination.
Yeah.
Creating a painting to play with us and our own perception.
Yes.
Of that process.
Yeah. And how do we escape the linear way of looking at something? Especially in a painting, because you have time in a painting. Like, my paintings often include time and timelessness. So it's like the two concepts that can work together in a painting, so that you can express or can reach an imaginative intensity that's beyond our normal way of looking.
The normal way of looking. So you are questioning the viewer own way to look at images.
Yes.
And you are, I just want to tell you again about this little thing that happened to me after spending an entire day in this space, surrounded by your paintings, is that by the time I went home, and it was time to go to sleep, I closed my eyes and I had all those reflections of colors, and almost I don't know, it's almost like my unconscious was actually integrating what it has been in front of all day long. And I could even see images that seemed to not be mine, but a play out of I don't know. So it's funny because it made my my eyelid almost like vibrant of colors and forms and personalized stories that I would tell myself to maybe like integrate what I was in front of all day. And as we were talking about it earlier on, and this idea of questioning reality, this is like, it's really is the point of your entire work, right?
I want to question reality.
You want to question reality.
Yeah.
And you want to have a viewer that is, through your painting, questioning his own perception of his own reality,
yes,
with its own projections and process of imagination included in all of this. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolute sense.
Okay.
It's and the reason for that is because we have become habituated to a certain way of looking at reality, and we are certain that we know. We will say that's a subject, that's an object. I want my paintings to be verbs. I want the action to happen. I want the metaphoric identity to spill out of it. So,
metaphoric. Can you repeat that?
Metaphoric identity.
Identity.
When you talk about metaphors, you say something is something. So in other words, you say, he is a lion. He isn't a lion, but you have accrued something leonine to the person, and you've given him this identity, but it's all imaginary. He is not a lion, but we say he is a lion. So that's the essence of metaphor. It's an imaginary thing, and my problem is that I think our concept of reality is a metaphor. I think we've entirely invented it, and we've invented all our prejudices. So in order to release the world from the prison
of consciousness.
Yes.
But we were
of
talking
the fact
earlier.
that we believe that we're a subject and we're an object, and that there's space and that there's time. But in actual fact, our mind and the way it works, we have absolutely no way of assessing that. Because when we observe things, we are projecting. So at any one moment that you're looking at something, you have projected your imaginary understanding of what you think you're looking at. And that's why, in a way, you can say all of humanity is hallucinating at every moment. Like they actually have absolutely no idea.
But could we question it? So we can question reality, and we can question this idea of like everybody hallucinating their own way through life, through perception and projections. But are all of our realities actually is it all truth?
And there's no truth in it at all, because we are unable to, firstly on an existential level, whatever we observe, we have to translate into some way of communication. So in that process, we've already lost the meaning. But even in our physiological thing, our hearing, our smell, our sight, we're actually imagining it all the times. We can smell things, we can hear things, and we can see things that are absolutely not there. And we're projecting. And the reason why is because neurologically, when we look at objects and we absorb them optically, and they become neurons sort of talking to our brain, that takes so long for the information to come out that we have a different system, and it's sort of called the best guess system. So we have a series of habituations. So we see reality in terms of those habituations. So in other words, if you have things like racism or feelings of what is truth and what is not truth, in actual fact, it's all a charade, it's all a big hallucination. There's absolutely no truth to identity. It's entirely fraudulent. We've invented the whole thing. So when I'm making these paintings, I'm trying to make that idea, make people see that something could be moving, its identity could be shifting. So it's about trying to communicate a new concept of the world and of reality. And it's based on the uncertainty, not the certainty of everything. So, and I think that the way we think about rationality, the trouble is rationality is just a figment of our imagination. And what we should really be thinking about is the imagination. So the imagination should be the primary way with which we interpret the world. And we should understand and accept the fact that we're always going to be uncertain. And we have to build a world which is able to coexist in symbiosis, so that all organisms can breathe. Like, to have identity and to have things like ownership is incorrect. The system can't work like that. But that is like constipation. We need something where everything is fluid and flowing.
And is that all, like when you paint, is that what you are putting in the painting process? Is that what you are thinking about it?
Not so much. I'm painting to some extent in an intuitive way, but also including elements that I'm interested in, like endangered species. I'm interested in a post-humanist view, because I think humanism as such is beyond incorrect. It's actually, it's going to destroy us. So I'm thinking we should be thinking in a post-humanist way about things.
In a post?
Yes. So, like
humanist way.
Ultimately, we need to understand a tree or an insect or a bird or a frog not as an object, but as something part of our world, because our body includes the plant world. Like, we have things like mitochondria, which cooperate with our body in order to generate oxygen so that we have energy to breathe in. If we didn't have that plant in our cell, in our cells, we'd be dead. We couldn't live on this planet. And we have the importance of the sun, which must activate elements within those cells, and then photosynthesis can take place. So,
and here finally we are coming to look at cybernates that actually speak about that, right?
Yeah.
This painting, to me, is exactly describing, like, with an imagery and the imagination, the correlation between the organism and the environment where it lives, and the relationship between both.
Yes. Cybernate, I was interested in an anthropologist called Gregory Bateson, and he developed this concept of cybernetics. And this was way before computers have taken the word cybernate into a new meaning.
Okay.
So to me, the cybernate here refers to the breakdown of the human structure into its elements. Like, we have 2 hands, we have 3 joints that make up fingers, and there's a sense of growing. So you might find from the head to the tail of the person or the object, like if it was a lizard or something, there's a sense of time going. So what you're looking at is almost, it's not, it wouldn't be something evolving, but it would be a sense of something in a state of becoming.
So this painting would be something in a state of becoming.
Yeah.
You know, right now I feel actually a lot of emotion through looking at this painting and not really knowing if the construction of this personage is full of life or ready to die.
Yeah, it's both. You'll see the death and the life is in there at the same time.
Like, it's funny because the face is starting to be constructed,
yeah,
but the construction of it makes me feel like it's dying.
Yes, it is.
In the process. So
it is.
And then, as much as I feel like when I'm looking at the face, I want to breathe in,
Yes.
but in the same time, I'm also called to look around and that blue is taking over me. And it makes me think of that cycle of,
Yeah.
of life and death.
Is that the last gasp of a creature, or is it the first breath?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And also like this idea of like there is a lot of like, it's almost like I'm being called, like néant. I don't know if there is this word in French coming to my mind, néant, like something about disparition, but that is called in the nipple. Like the nipple is not there. Like it's just not there. It's just a hole.
Yeah.
And knowing that, like as human and like animals, like I'm thinking of breastfeeding. Of course, I'm a mom, and I'm a breastfeeding mom, and I'm thinking of like this nipple is not there, and this eye on the left
Exactly.
is not there,
Yeah.
and this ear, it's not there, and like you have this kind of this triangle between legs, in like pretty much at the like top left, like this triangle, and you can even add like the other eye and the breath and the mouth, and there is something like, I don't know, it feels almost like, yeah, almost like you are making a creature. Speaking of the disparition of a creature, and then it's almost like it's gonna be gone, and it's almost like it has never been. Does it? I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I'm
You know,
bubbling,
it
but
does. A lot of my work in the past, I think of them as chimeras, where it's an animal and a human part joined together,
yeah.
and they're trying to find the animal in man.
Oh yeah. Okay, so it refers to your previous body of work. So
Yeah.
and actually, this painting it's a beautiful representation of like what we are seeing right now, like your present body of work and like the previous ones. That was not as abstract.
Yeah, they were very figurative. It was
very figurative and really provocative.
very provocative.
Questioning morals.
Yeah, and it's called the Primal Series, and it transgresses our politeness.
Politeness, okay.
So I reached.
And you went away
some-
from that with this new series.
Yeah.
And on the left, so we have the circle of birth, and on the right, that painting on the right, the third one on the right, exfoliate,
Yeah.
is actually quite the opposite of what's happening on the left, right?
Yeah, it's our consciousness binding us, and it doesn't allow us to escape how we see.
And it's interesting because you are using also images from the skin being ripped off animals, right?
Yeah, it upset me a lot that they skin dogs and things alive.
Yeah.
And I just find humans are so unsympathetic towards our life that they can destroy environments so easily. And it's like trying to say something that is at a felt level rather than it's an imaginary revenge on humans at some level. So that is like a prisoner of the crime.
A prisoner of the crime, a prisoner of our projections that creates our consciousness.
That's us, yeah.
And that creates brutality and violence.
If I had to be brutal to the person that skinned that dog alive, this is my brutality to that person.
That's your brutality to that person, that painting.
Yeah.
You know, when I first arrived in the room, and this is why we are in front of the street painting, is that I was called towards this corner, and I felt the orange so, I don't know, the atmosphere of your entire exhibition to me is it's those two paintings on the external. It's just like it gives the entire exhibition its atmosphere. And it's funny that to me, it's funny. It's not funny. I use that word a lot, but we speak about life and we speak about violence. We speak about the creation and the consciousness of it, as well as the violence that all of it brings. Plus, this question of desperation in the entire process. I'm really, when we were talking about, right now, emotions are really, I believe that emotion possess your work, and it has, I feel that your work has violence in it, but in a really velvety way.
Yeah.
Which is really weird, but also remind me
that's
of
That's a good way of putting it.
But it reminds me also of your voice.
It's very sensual.
Yeah.
It's sensual violence.
How can I change the world?
That's right.
How can I just not rip it off when I'm hungry?
Yeah.
And instead, how can I transfer that violence that I feel inside of me? How can I transform it? And you paint.
Yes, and I try and think about.
And you try to think about it, about
how to
your
reimagine
perception.
Yeah,
how to reimagine our existence, how to process what the world is made of, how to be alive with all the emotions and the stuff that are around us.
Yeah, the key thing is that people have to give up the idea of truth and have to give up the idea of identity, and that's.
I don't know. So this is what your conclusion is.
Yes.
That's how you feel.
Yeah. I think that I believe
that every person's reality is truth, in a way.
Yeah.
So I believe that different realities can coexist.
If we had to initiate a symbiotic revolution,
Yeah.
we would have to amalgamate with other organisms.
Yeah.
We would have to see how a tree speaks.
I would love to hear a tree speak and tell me
out.
everything about its own experience.
Yeah.
But maybe it is speaking to us and we just don't listen.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like the possibility is there, but we have to open our imaginations. And that's our problem, is that we don't
stay present. This is why we decided to have these images, this image fixed on those 3 paintings.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we actually look at them.
Yeah.
So the person who looks at this video, if they look at it, sees and listen to us as we are speaking about. They see exactly what we are seeing and speaking about in the time of seeing and talking about it. It's a really interesting. So it's a little bit like that tree. Yeah. Maybe we can just sit beyond that tree, or beside that tree, or at the bottom of that tree. Maybe we can just be present with that tree.
It's to be open.
And maybe that tree will actually be there talking to us. So.
And to realize that we can't own things.
And we can't own things.
And especially our identity, it's like if you have a cup and you drink from it, but the reality is that the cup is also drinking of you. And that's because you are bound to that cup. So that cup owes its existence to the fact that you need that cup to drink out of. And it's like, how do we reinvent our world in a way that will open those boundaries to actually allow our imaginations to reinvent, to figure things out, and to find a point of existence that actually works for the whole planet. And to me, that's the key thing in these works. You can't see it in this particular image, but this painting here, Transmute.
Transmute.
Is it's about endangered species that are in some way like things like the butterfly, lionfish, and tigers. And the idea of transmuting something is like an alchemical term for the changing of something. So in ancient times, it could be something from the whole idea was turning lead into gold. That was the metaphor. And whatever the magic involved, because it actually is far more complicated than the sort of science would suggest. It's more based on belief systems and things like that. But that painting is an amalgamation of air and ocean, and the creatures themselves are becoming a part of the human body, and the human body is only there in fragments. So it's like the flowing rhythms of the world with just that memory